Hello, to call the South Lyon Community Schools Board of Education meeting November 2nd, 2020 at 7 o'clock to order. Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Mr. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Tao.
Here.
Mr. Schwegler.
Here.
Mr. Dashner.
Here.
I'm here, Mr. Kennedy.
Here.
And Mrs. Anshaw.
Here. We have a quorum. Okay, with that, item 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
To the
of the United States of America,
to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item, item number 3 actually, is public comments, and we have one public comment that's going to be called in. Ms. Gamori, are you on the line?
Hello.
Yes, go right ahead.
Hi. Good evening. With the recent rise in cases throughout our state, some districts like West Bloomfield, Huron Valley, and Waterford are returning to remote learning. Our current school district boundary contains at least 103 cases, which are only tracked for a 2-week time period. It's obvious that COVID-19 is circulating here as well. What are the thresholds for returning to remote learning versus 25%, 50%, or 100% in person? As parents, we should know what specific thresholds determine when it is safe to progress to higher attendance levels before we are asked to decide on in-person instruction for second semester. Also, what is preventing the district from offering the current remote in-person platform to students who are virtual only? Why must there be 2 separate platforms? The district can still take account of in-person versus completely remote for purposes of in-person class sizes and require students stay within their choices. Keeping the students in classrooms with their peers and South Lyon teachers would be beneficial for continuity and feeling like part of the community. Under the virtual only platform, this semester my son would have had only one South Lyon teacher and split the rest of his classes between Edgenuity and Michigan Virtual. That's 3 different educational platforms and only one South Lyon teacher. How does that benefit our students educationally or emotionally? Our taxes already pay for teachers, hardware, software to have remote learning in every classroom. Putting students in a separate virtual only platform greatly reduces their connection with their South Lyon teachers and classmates while increasing district costs paying for these outside online services. If South Lyon secondary students return to 100% in-person learning, when students become sick, there is no option to continue their work online. They will miss classroom instruction, in-class assignments, tests, and have to make up missed work for often 10 to 14-day time periods, minimum, while sick or exposed to COVID. That's a lot of instruction time that we missed and will have to be made up. Because of the missed instruction time, if sick or exposed, some will opt to come to school anyway to avoid falling behind, therefore exposing more students and staff to illnesses that will require them to miss school. This seems like a cycle that could be avoided with a continuous remote option, which would allow sick and exposed students to attend class online or at least have the ability to play back lessons when they are well enough to do so. Continuous remote could also end the separation of students between those who receive South Lyon instruction and those who get very little, if any, South Lyon instruction. And the bonus, it saves the district money by not paying for the online services only, or the online only services, sorry. That's all for my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that's currently our only public comment. So we will move on to item number 4, which is approval of agenda.
I'll move to approve this evening's agenda.
I'll support.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Mr. Dashner. Any questions or comments regarding the agenda? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Ms. Anshaw.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler.
Yes.
Mrs. Ertel.
Yes.
And Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. Item number 5 is approval of minutes.
I'll move to approve the October 19, 2020 minutes for the special meeting and for the regular meeting.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Dashner, supported by Mr. Clark. Any questions or comments regarding the meeting minutes? Okay, Mr. Bate, please call the roll.
Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
Ms. Zertel,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Ms. Anshaw,
Yes,
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
motion passes 7-0. Item number 6 is the Bond 2020 Owner/Architect Agreement. Ms. Witt?
Good evening. IDS has been the district's architect for many years. The district has been very happy with their services. The Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance worked with IDS and Troon Law Firm to negotiate a contract for the services for the 2020 bond. This contract was presented to the board at the October 19th, 2020 regular meeting. No changes were requested, so it's administration's recommendation to approve the contract as presented.
Great, thank you. We have a motion.
I'll move to approve the bond 2020 owner architect agreement with IDS.
I'll support.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Dashner, supported by Mr. Kennedy. Any questions or comments? I did have just a quick question. Did the finance department review these, or was this, or the finance committee? Or was this just, okay. Just you
No,
and
the finance
Rich?
committee did not review them. I did work with Troon. Troon has reviewed them, and I did not send them to the finance committee first, though, just to the
That's fine.
board at the last meeting.
Right, and yeah, we've had plenty of time to review them, so I'm just wondered. Okay. All right, with that, Mr. Bate, please call the roll.
You're muted.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Ms. Zertel,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
and Ms. Zertel.
Yes.
Oh, did you say me? Yeah, I voted yes too. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 7 is the Bond 2020 Owner Construction Manager Agreement.
Yes, the board previously approved a resolution on May 6, 2019 that named Barton Mallow as the construction manager for the new bond issue and directed the superintendent or designee to negotiate a contract for services. This contract was presented to the board at the October 19th, 2020 regular meeting. No changes were requested. It is administration's recommendation to approve the contract as presented. And I just want to add that this contract was thoroughly reviewed by Troon, myself, and Barton Mallow as well.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the bond 2020 owner construction manager agreement.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Ms. Ertel. Any questions or comments regarding this contract?
I do think going forward, it probably would be a good idea that these contracts or any amendments to the agreements in the future or change orders get in front of the facilities committee prior to the full board.
Facility or finance?
I would, well, facilities for sure.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
All right, I vote yes. Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. Anshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Ms. Zertel,
Yes.
and Mr. Schwegler.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 8 is the 2020-2021 board meeting schedule change. Mr. Archibald?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As you know, and I'll make this, try to make it short, we have the responsibility to review the extended COVID learning plan. And initially, we understood that to mean every 30 days. And the verbiage has been tweaked to be once per month. And looking at where the breaks fall in our calendar and the span between the meeting dates, we think it's appropriate to add 2 meetings to the calendar. That gives us a little more latitude to be able to space out those presentations in a more even basis and working with the breaks around the holidays and so forth. So we're asking the board to approve to amend the meeting dates to add a meeting on December 14th and January 11th.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I will move then to add December 14th and January 11th of 21 to our meeting dates.
I'll support.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Mr. Schwegler. Any additional questions or comments regarding the addition of these dates? Okay. Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
All right, Mrs. Hanshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
I vote yes.
Ms. Zertel.
Yes.
I vote yes, Mr. Schwegler
Yes.
and Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item next is, item 9 is administration already. Legislation?
Nothing to report on this evening. Thank you.
Excellent. Next up is board committee reports. Legislative?
The only comment would be, I don't know, make sure everybody saw the email that the November Oakland Schools dinner meeting has been canceled or postponed until spring. Other than that,
wow.
nothing new.
Okay. Policy, we did not have a meeting this month. Finance.
We were supposed to have a meeting today. It got canceled. There was nothing on the agenda. So I think our next one is right before our next board meeting.
Okay. Facilities and grounds.
We have our meeting tomorrow.
Okay. Curriculum and communications.
We've not met. Our next meeting is next week, Thursday.
Okay. The Oakland Schools Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Group committee. Ms. Hertel, were you able to attend that last week?
Yeah, I was able to stay for the first hour. They had a guest speaker who was the state of Michigan's Teacher of the Year speak about diversity in the schools, which was interesting. And then they had a discussion after, and unfortunately I couldn't stay for all of it. So so that was the gist of the majority of the meeting, was listening to different philosophies and thoughts about diversity and equity in the schools and how different schools are handling it, and what some of the firsthand experiences are with that.
Okay. Thank you. The Oakland County Health Department School Board update. Mr. Dashner?
Yeah, I attended the online meeting last Wednesday. They went through the metrics of COVID in Oakland County. Basically, caseloads are going up. Healthcare remains strong, but the county's grade level did go from a C down to a D, and there was some discussion on whether it would go down to an E. Some of the interesting things that came out of it that I shared with you via email, but that I'll share here, is that countywide, Oakland County Health Department is seeing very little spread within the schools. Most of the cases they have are coming from outside. And somebody had asked about spread mechanisms. And basically any spread that has happened within Oakland County schools has been kids sitting in close proximity to each other, not wearing masks in a lunch type situation. And there's been very little contact that they could trace back to just general surface contacts. So they think it's direct transmission from person to person rather than getting it from surfaces within the school, which I thought, I hadn't heard something like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But generally speaking, you know, all the numbers are heading in the wrong direction. But the silver lining coming out of it is that it's not really spreading in schools. Kids are getting it elsewhere and then bringing it to school or staff.
Right. Okay. All right. Next up is other. Mr. Archibald, do we have an other?
Just briefly, and I've asked Mrs. Toth, who has been heading up our COVID response, to join us, and it really picks up on what Mr. Dashner is speaking about. And I think it's important, and I won't speak for the community, but hopefully to them, and my own personal opinion is that we need to continue to monitor things going on in our community and those things closest to us, and continuing to behave in a responsible manner so that we can maintain as much in-person instruction as we can. We need not panic. We continue to learn more and more about the virus and about its transmission and spread. And we have a lot of very good things in place here in the district. But we also can't be foolish to think that we'll stay in a good place without a very deliberate and a very conscientious effort, both in school and out of school. The other thing I don't know that Mr. Dashner, I didn't hear in his comments, but I imagine came up in their meeting, is that it's a lot of the social events and things that are happening outside of schools that is contributing to the cases appearing in schools. And we all want this to be over. We all want to be past this, and would love to be working on school without a COVID attached to it. But you know, we're in this for the long run. And I just continue to encourage folks to continue wearing your face coverings, practicing the frequently hand washing, allowing physical distancing, avoiding our gatherings, staying at home when you're sick, whether you're a student or a staff member. And again, they're unlike a lot of issues we're confronted with. There are a lot of things that each of us can do to help reduce the spread and deal with this. So again, we'll remain concerned. At no point throughout this will we be comfortable until it's over. So we'll continue to be cognizant of what's going on and responsive, and obviously not only responsive, but as proactive as we can be, which I think is supported by a lot of the good things that we have in place. I've asked Sue Toth to join us. I know the community, what you may not see, and it's something that Sue would see, our nurses and our administration, is the amount of time and everything that goes into once we have a case or suspected case brought to the attention of school people. So I'd like Sue to kind of walk through some of the steps that happen. I also want her to address, when we update the website, some folks have made the connection that our communications out to the community in positive or suspected cases is a tick or two higher than what's reflected on the website. And she'll provide the explanation for that. And then also a frequently asked questions document that Mrs. Toth has worked with our county provided nurses, and something we'll be pushing out to the community tomorrow, which I think provides some very good information for families to know. So Sue, thanks for joining us. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll start with the process of what happens when the school is informed that someone has tested positive for COVID. Often we're getting that call from the parent who's gotten the results quickly back, and they quickly call us. We're usually getting that information before the Oakland County Health Department receives it from the testing location. So when we get that information, we have basically step-by-step guidelines of what we're following to get more information from the parent, to learn more about where the test was taken, when it was taken, when the student was last in school, did they ride the bus, are they involved with other extracurricular activities, a series of questions so we can gather as much information as possible. When we get that information, if the student did ride the bus, we're collecting the seating charts and schedules from the classroom that the students were in. That includes also where the student was eating lunch, all the different times and locations that we can think of that a student may have had contact with others within our school district. We gather that information, we send it off to our Oakland County Health Department, and we begin our communication system. So really with the communication, we're starting to identify which students or staff members who may have had close contact. That close contacts then are contacted and given information that they may have been exposed to the COVID virus. And then action steps are taken if they should need to be able to begin quarantining. From there, we work with the classroom teachers, work with the school itself to make sure that the school community is getting the updated information. And then usually by the end of the day, the district's communication is going out to everyone. The dashboard, what's interesting about that is that the dashboard does allow us to update information that we're receiving from the county that are the ones that are the school associated cases of COVID. So the school associated cases has a very specific definition, and often we're getting information from parents, which we can keep track of. We know which ones are responding to us, or whether it's a staff member, they're completing their screener, so we know which ones are positive. But the health department really tells us which ones were school related or school associated. It's actually school associated fitting into that definition. When we get that information, that's when it triggers the dashboard on our website to be updated. So the FAQ document that Mr. Archibald had referenced, it has tons of good questions, just some of the most commonly asked questions that our nurses have been able to gather and then produce an answer to, and that will be shared out tomorrow with our community.
Great.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, anyone have any questions for Ms. Toth?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jenny. Ms. Ortel.
Okay. Yeah, it's either from Mr. Archibald or Ms. Toth. I've gotten a couple emails direct today from a couple parents that are concerned about how the county did go down to a grade E, and that we've had a couple of districts around us and throughout Oakland County that have either closed for a week, 2 weeks, or through Thanksgiving. Have discussions been going on, or thoughts, or threshold levels of what might happen and what our thoughts are for South Lyon with the amount of cases that we're having, what's happening in the county, about whether or not we would pause and go to full on remote?
No, that's the $1 million question. What I've not seen or received from the county is specific threshold indicators. What we need to look at is continue to look at how things are impacting us closely, whether it's within a particular classroom, within the school, or within the district, and respond accordingly. So, we're where we are today in our meeting with the Oakland County Health Department this afternoon, with the other Oakland County superintendents. Their recommendation was for districts, because of what we have in place, to maintain the course currently, but then continue to evaluate your situation. We'll go back to what we talked about this summer in the things that we would use to make decisions, our ability to provide PPE, our ability to staff our buildings, and the local health data that we're available. And so there is not in my understanding, and as you know, I'm not a health expert. I'm not even, I'm not anything related to health. I'm an educator. But it'll be a combination of these things as opposed to a single factor. And in the districts around us who may have made that decision, my sense is, with knowing a little bit more information, is that there may be some other things going on specific to those communities and in those districts that might guide that decision to go remotely now. That being said, we will be prepared, and I'll be prepared to bring that to this board or to make that decision at any point. The factors we talked about would suggest that's the most prudent thing to do. So I have confidence right now that the things we have in place are getting us through each day. But I'm also not naive enough to believe that, we know that things can change rapidly, and we'll be prepared to respond to that. But I think right now, proactively, it's following diligently the things that we have in place. So have long answer, and hopefully, Mrs. Ertel, I haven't strayed too far from the question, which is, has the district had conversations? We talk about these things constantly. And, you know, is it something we've considered? Absolutely. We've considered the gamut. There is no, I don't know how to say it, there is no just resting at the end of a given day in this current circumstance. We are constantly evaluating what's going on around us and what's going on here, and trying to decide if there's something different that we should be doing. So there really won't be much resting until this is over.
And the health department, the health department hasn't given us any clear directive of, now that you're in E, you should go to remote, or.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
So I'm asking this question more from the public standpoint, just to, I guess, get the information out there. But as of now, my understanding is we have not had a case that has spread within school. Is that any of the COVID positive cases that we know of students have been from the outside, and no one else in our schools has gotten it from them while in school, correct?
We're not aware of through any of the contact tracing or anything that's been shared with us, that it's been transmitted at school. Sue, is that, I should probably check before I say, is that accurate?
I would say that is accurate, yes.
Yeah. And the reason I want to say that is that granted, we're not too far into having kids or students in school. I mean, we've been there for about a month, and, you know, to have things show up, but not have it been traced to spread to school, it shows that what we're doing is working. And I know some people might be nervous, but I guess I just want to get that across, that, you know, that's one of the things we're watching and making sure that, you know, the school isn't becoming a spreader for it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Ms. Toth. Next up is item 10, which is reports. South Lyon Educational Foundation, Mr. Abate.
Sure. So I'll start out giving a little bit of a shout out to the South Lyon Rec. They put on a great trick or treat event for the community the weekend before Halloween, and the foundation was there. They had a pretty cool Harry Potter backdrop to take pictures of all the kids coming through collecting candy, and that turned out really great. And those pictures have been up online for folks to take a look at and to purchase in high quality if they so choose. And then I have another message from the foundation board. And it's the following. The South Lyon Educational Foundation is excited to be teaming with local photographers for a holiday fundraising event benefiting our schools. Our holiday front porch photo shoot begins this weekend. Families will have the convenience of having their holiday photo shoot at the comfort of their front porch while remaining socially distant. The $100 family holiday package includes a 10 to 15 minute photo shoot with 3 to 5 digital images. $75 of each shoot will be donated to the foundation. Please visit the events page on the foundation website for more information. And that's what is happening in the foundation at the moment.
Great, thank you. And thanks to them. Item number 11 is our second opportunity for public comment. And we have 3 right now. Up first is Mr. Mikola. Are you on the line? Guessing not. He didn't answer whether or not he didn't write down whether he was planning on calling, so I will read what he wrote. Okay, number 1, what metrics would be used in the decision to go back to 100%? Same as the original plan approved in August at stage 5. Number 2, going back 100% with no classroom video creates problems for students in quarantine. There would be no way to participate from home for the extended period. Many students at the secondary level struggle even with 1 day missed. Now they decide between missing 10 days or attending. And number 3, would the block schedule or remote Wednesday be maintained at 100%? Next up is Christina Reeves, who is a South Lyon High School student. And she states, on the news just now it states that we are at level E, so why are we not going to full remote learning when all surrounding communities are? And then Ms. Reeves wrote a second comment. How are we to choose to go full virtual or in person with no metrics to tell us when you will go full in person 50, 25, or full remote? This is a fluid situation and deserve the right to choose when the time is at hand. And then lastly, she states again, we know kids are having parties and not taking precautions. This is a fact. So how can you think if kids go back to in-person, things will spread, whether or not the first contact is in school, it will spread through the school. All right, and that is all of our public comments. We have no correspondence. Our meeting dates are listed, including our 2 new meeting dates that we approved tonight. So next up is board comments. Mr. Dashner, start us off, please.
Oh, goody. I get to not repeat anyone. I'll just say congratulations to all the sports, and I'm not going to try to name all of them individually because I know a lot of them are competing for states right now. I know both football teams moved on to the next round. I know East Volleyball was playing. I know East Track did well. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of others out there, but congratulations to them all and doing very well and keeping moving. Also, just, again, COVID, I don't want to talk it to death, but please, please, please be diligent in the screening questions daily. The more we can keep it out of the school, the more we can keep kids in school. And then I also want to say thank you to Oakland County providing the nurses that we have in our district. I've heard very good things about them and how helpful they've been. So I do appreciate the county for using some of the special COVID funding for getting those in our district. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Mr. Clark? Oh.
I'm all set, thank you.
All right, thanks. Mr. Abate?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just reiterate some of what was said earlier about the responsibility we all have out in the community to do our best to limit community spread. We've noted a couple times here that we're not seeing necessarily outbreaks or spread within the school buildings, but when we do have those cases that are contracted outside of school and come into the building or have contact with folks in the building, as we mentioned in the summer, it is creating quarantine situations, and it's going to be significant disruptions to students learning because you're going to miss 10 days, 14 days, et cetera. You could have an entire class out and so forth. And the more that happens, the more choppy the year gets and the closer we get to potentially not being able to continue the way we would hope. So everybody just needs to do their best to keep after this and keep it contained so that we can stay open. And that's all I really have. Besides, I hope everybody has a safe and successful election day. Get out and vote. It's the most important thing that you will do tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ertel?
Yeah, I was going to kind of say the same thing in terms of just try to be as healthy as you can outside of school. If you are feeling sick, stay home. We want to try to keep the schools open so that we can have our kids in. I mean, I see even with at the secondary level where both of my kids are, 2 days in person makes a world of difference. I'd love to be able to go back full time. But with the cases that we've got and the parties that are happening outside of school, it's just, just be careful, wear your mask, try not to spread, and congratulations, good luck, and all of that to all sports that are still going and to all kids who are trying out for upcoming winter sports. And
Thank
stay
you.
warm.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
Nothing more to add that hasn't already been said other than let's keep diligent and let folks know I'm still looking for my 10% of the Halloween candy haul that hasn't come across my desk yet. Saying.
Perfect. Mr. Schwegler?
Well said by everybody else. And yes, apparently there is an election tomorrow so that we can stop getting random phone number texts about people running for office. So good luck. Go out and vote. That's all I have today.
Of course, everything's already been said, but I hope the community understands that, we've been saying this from day one. Nobody here has any experience with this. There is no standard playbook. Every district is handling it to the best of their abilities and making the decisions in their own community's best interest. And we will continue to do that. So be patient and wear your masks and do your part. And hopefully we can get everyone back in school as quick as possible. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll support.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Dashner, supported by Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Bate, please call the roll.
Ms. Sancho,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
Mrs. Zertel,
Yes.
and Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Motion 7-0. We are adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Night.
They're gonna
Very well.